Snowmelt fills rivers in U.S. Southwest, easing drought fears. Denver, a welcome surge of melting snow is pouring out of